आपने आप बोले ना मुझे
यहाँ पर थी, क्या बोलते भेलपुरी खा रही थी, मेरा
हाँ,
पति साइड में था,
ठीक है।
एक इंसान आया, उसने उसको गोली मार दी।
यहाँ पे
उसने बोला कि शायद मुस्लिम नहीं है, उसने उसको गोली मार दी।
I have largely refrained from commenting on Pakistan, not merely due to its shrinking relevance, but also to avoid any perception of bias. However, the recent cowardly attack by Pakistani trained terrorists on Hindu tourists in Pahalgam, Kashmir has compelled me to really address this situation and include how India could respond. On April 22, 2025, terrorists launched a brutal assault in Pahalgam, killing 26 innocent people, mostly Indian national. The Resistance Front, a known proxy of Pakistan-backed Lashkar-e-Taiba, claimed the responsibility. In an immediate response, India suspended the Indus Water Treaty and signaled that a far stronger retaliation is also being prepared. Before discussing India's potential military response, it's crucial to set a strategic context here. Not through the raw numbers of troops, tanks, and aircrafts, but through the qualitative comparison of capabilities of the both nations, which reveals the true balance of power. India today fields an active multi-layered ballistic missile defense system, combining endo-atmospheric interceptors like AAD, which is Advanced Air Defense, and exo-atmospheric interceptors, which is PAD, which is Prithvi Air Defense. Now, PAD attempts to destroy high-altitude threats, and if it misses, AAD does the job. This shield is backed by indigenously developed Swordfish long-range tracking radar, capable of tracking the threats up to 1500 km, all seamlessly coordinated by India's battle management system Akash Tir, operational since 2024. Add to this the S-400 Triumph system, capable of neutralizing aerial threats up to 400 km, and India's defensive posture becomes much more formidable if you consider these air defense capabilities. In the domain of electronic warfare, India has built a true multi-domain integration across air, sea, and land, all supported by cyber fusion platforms like Dividrishti. Pakistan, by contrast, possesses scattered tactical electronic warfare assets, older generation Chinese electronic warfare parts on JS-17, and limited aerial jamming from Saab 2000 ERI aircraft. Critically, Pakistan lacks any integrated battle management system and remains heavily dependent on Chinese hardware. Once these systems are suppressed by Indian seed and deed missions, Pakistan's ability to recover or replace them would be cripplingly slow, whereas India has indigenized most of its electronic warfare command and control for rapid scaling. On the signal intelligence and electronic intelligence front, while Pakistan retains some limited interception capabilities, it's fundamentally incapable of breaching India's encrypted SATCOM network. Moreover, India's demonstration of anti-satellite capability, indigenous space-based asset, give it total dominance across all the electromagnetic and orbital spectrum. Pakistan conversely relies on Chinese satellite and communication infrastructure, which is a glaring weakness. In short, India today possesses a full scalable continuum of electronic warfare, signal and electronic intelligence capabilities, designed, manufactured and fielded mostly indigenously, whereas Pakistan can at best jam local radio communication or disrupt some tactical signals for a brief period before being overwhelmed by Indian firepower. Pakistan simply lacks the capacity to blind, spoof or disrupt India's command and control at strategic level. If an electronic war were to break between India and Pakistan, aided by India's seed and deed operations, Pakistan's electronic radar communication capabilities would collapse within days, leaving its forces blind, deaf, and paralyzed. Now that we have set the stage, let's dive into two likely possibilities for India's military response. The first scenario would be an air-land medium to large-scale strike combined with naval blockade. Now, in this approach, India may choose to not immediately occupy POK, which is Pakistan occupied Kashmir, but instead launch a widespread air and missile strike targeting multiple terror hubs across POK and mainland Pakistan. Simultaneously, Indian special forces could penetrate across POK and inside the Pakistani territory to eliminate high-value targets. On the seas, Indian Navy would enforce a total blockade, cutting off Pakistan's trade lifelines, asserting overwhelming dominance over Arabian Sea, outclassing Pakistani Navy. Now, in response, Pakistan would likely attempt an air retaliation, scrambling fighter jets from Muzaffarabad, Skadru, Chilas, and possibly deeper bases like Nur Khan, Murid, Kamra, and Sargodha. However, each one of these air bases fall under the 240-kilometer strike envelope, well within the reach of Indian lethal missiles. With Indian assets like Meteor missiles with over range of 150 to 200 km, S-400 air defense system which has a 400 km engagement range already deployed in this area, any Pakistani aircraft or Babar cruise missile lifting off from one of these bases would find itself under immediate and catastrophic threat. Furthermore, Indian Air Force Field Scalp missile, which has a range of over 500 km, and air-launched BrahMos cruise missile, which has a range of 300 km, backed by ground-launched BrahMos regiment, which fields missiles with range of over 800 km. All of these are capable of devastating Pakistani bases even without crossing Pakistani airspace. Add to this India's electronic warfare dominance that we have discussed previously, and the combined effect would cripple the Pakistani radar communication and response capacity within hours. Now, this style of war would likely unfold over 72 hours, delivering a hammer blow that would decimate Pakistan's forward air power and humble its military without requiring a territorial invasion. If India conducts such a strike campaign, it would resemble a smaller, localized version of Operation Desert Storm, perhaps about 40% of its scale. It would feature overwhelming air and missile strike to systematically neutralize Pakistan's forward bases, terror hubs, and even key infrastructure, coupled with maritime blockade that would suffocate Pakistan's economy. But let's say Pakistan wants to escalate this war. Let's address a full-scale war scenario with Pakistan. If India commits to indefinite escalation, Pakistan simply cannot match India's military responses blow for blow over the time. India possesses the capability to launch saturation missile strike across Pakistan's naval, air, and ground assets and sustain these attacks over weeks if required. Strategically, India maintains a total strategic petroleum reserve of about 39 million barrels, produces over 600,000 barrel oil, and holds a classified military fuel stockpile capable of supporting a full-scale wartime operation for more than 50 days. And this doesn't even account for India's ongoing daily domestic production, which would further stretch its capabilities. In stark contrast, Pakistan has no true strategic petroleum reserve. It refines barely 90,000 barrels every day and imports about 85% of oil, almost all of it through highly vulnerable ports like Karachi, which will be already under blockade. Under a full-swing high-intensity total war, Pakistan's ability to sustain a continuous air, naval, and mechanized ground operation would begin to collapse within 2 to 5 days, especially once the jet fuel and diesel consumption spikes. A full-scale war with Pakistan would end for Pakistan even before it truly begins. Forget about comparing the equipment and range of missiles. At a strategic level, Pakistan simply cannot sustain a high-intensity conflict against India for more than a week. In any scenario, a war with India would spell a catastrophic result for Pakistan, and those results would be dictated entirely by India's decision, not by Pakistan's resilience. Now, the last question is, could Pakistan consider a nuclear option? The short answer is yes. But would it lead to a Pakistani victory? Absolutely not. A nuclear strike on India would trigger an overwhelming and annihilating nuclear response from India, as per India's stated doctrine, making it the most expensive and irreversible act of national suicide in human history. Well, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Spearhead over and out.